Dynamic voices for a diverse church. This is Pass the Mic.
Greetings and God bless. Welcome to another episode of Pass the Mic, Dynamic Voices for a Diverse Church, powered by The Witness, a Black Christian collective. I'm your host, Tyler Burns. You can follow me on Instagram and X at Burns Clan. Please follow at your own risk. And joining me, as always, is the founder of The Witness. He has a very extensive bio. He is the man, the myth, the legend, the two-time best-selling author, the person who just got shared by Will Smith on IG story, Mr. Blue Check verified him. See, everybody can't do it.
Oh,
That's a level.
shucks.
That's a level
You
y'all
didn't have
can't
to
understand.
mention.
He posted it. He shared it with the heart emoji. That's a level y'all can't understand. Dr. Jemar Tisby, what's going on, brother?
Yeah, Will Smith and I are best friends. He doesn't know it, but we go way back like that. So no, it was just this little thing, man. He posted, he has this new song out that he performed for the first time at the BET Awards. He posted about it. It's a positive, uplifting song. And honestly, I thought, okay, this is kind of the message we need right now, especially as we talk about what we're about to talk about. And so I put this comment in the comments that, hey, it's a positive, uplifting song. These are the kinds of songs that stand the test of time. And so he screenshot it, put it in his stories, and then I screenshot it and I saved it in my favorites, and I'll always cherish it and I'll never forget.
It's your lock screen now too, right?
This is a lock screen.
I'm gonna see you soon,
screen.
so I'm gonna check your home screen and your lock screen just to make sure. Man, so all of us last week, our eyes were glued to the television. You mentioned what we're getting ready to talk about. Our eyes were glued to the television as we were watching the presidential debate, the first one of this 2024 cycle. And that spawned all kinds of tweets, reactions, comments. And so Jemar was like, we just need to have a few minutes of group therapy to talk it out. We just need to process it together. We need to do a wellness check on one another to make sure we are okay. Jemar, where were you at when you were watching this debate, and what in the world were you thinking?
So let me hop on my soapbox already. Usually I stair step up to it, and right now I'm just jumping onto the stage. Y'all, we are operating, many of us, as if we need to wait until November to have a sense of urgency, even panic around this. No. We crossed that line a long time ago. And the events that happened recently only underline and underscore that fact and that reality. So beginning with the debate, first of all, it's highly unusual. It came way earlier than typical. And there's usually a bipartisan group of legislators that comes together, determines the rules, the timing, all of it's very set up. And for the first time, really, since we've been having these televised debates, they went outside of that structure. As I understand it, it was the Democratic Party and leaders who wanted this. It did not go how they planned. Bro,
yeah, that was not it. That was not it.
Here's the thing. It wasn't just bad. It was catastrophically bad. Like, you could not, if you wrote this in a script and said, hey, let's create a movie or a short around this, they would have said, this is too ridiculous. Nobody will believe it. And I can tell you, usually I had to watch it because I was going to do a response. So if I had not been required to do so, I would have shut it off almost immediately, because you looked at it and it's TV. It's a visual medium. You have Trump as Trump. All of the stuff that he does to physically look like he does, nothing had changed. Then you have Biden. He's pale. His voice is weak. He's losing track of his words and his thoughts. And you're like, this could not be a more perfect illustration of what Biden's opponents want to scare people with, his age. And it was just like, whoa. And it didn't get better. I mean, he had a couple decent answers throughout, but on the whole, and then I think the format worked to Trump's advantage. So we talk about the muting of the mics. That meant he couldn't talk over and show the bullying quality, right? So then he looked more reasonable. And then it wasn't a live audience either. So he didn't respond to what the audience was responding to, whether positive or negative, right? Or in support or opposition to what he said. So he didn't start ad-libbing and go off the rails like he typically does. So you didn't actually get the full Trump. And then at the same time, it's not Biden's format either.
Right. Very much so. Like, especially as someone who struggled with the stutter, the idea of him
Exactly.
keeping it down into 2 minutes, and then the rules just completely stymied him clearly from the start. So definitely on both sides was very much so a very interesting dynamic, as you saw this contrast of it's not really showing us the fullness of who 45 is, and as you know, and a very dangerous figure, but then it's also not really showing us the fullness of the current president either. What do you think is the most alarming piece of this? So you said we need to panic right now. What's the most alarming element that's on the top of your mind?
So one, and I even did this because here's the thing. It was so bad, Biden's performance in that. And it was a performance because, again, this is a televised medium. This is not a written article. This is not a sit-down conversation, right? And it's a debate. So it's literally set up to have a winner and a loser. He lost, and he lost badly, right? So you had to talk about that. But you asked what's most dangerous. I think one of the dangerous parts is we've got now all of this scrutiny on Biden, which I hope doesn't distract from the awfulness of Trump. Because even in that debate, I was literally like following along on social media and seeing what people were saying. And so I was kind of partly distracted. But as soon as Trump started speaking, I knew I could dip out because whatever he said was a complete and utter fabrication. Like, you were not missing any substance whatsoever. So I hope that is not getting lost. And then, I mean, the conversation is, okay, but who can beat him? And that is really interesting. So I'm wondering, you have an interesting take on this, whether, I mean, the conversation is about whether Biden should stay in or drop out and somebody else be the nominee. What is your talk? What is your thought?
Well, I'll address the most dangerous element because it's very much so. Before we get into next steps, I think it's very much so an alarming idea when the narrative of how we have narratives in this country, how we talk about things. And I think we so often reach for the lowest hanging fruit rather than really addressing what makes the tree rotten to begin with. And I think the first thing that is alarming is the inability of the current president, President Biden, to be able to speak back to Donald Trump is that he is unable to address, confront, and rebut the lies. There are blatant lies. So a lot of people made this narrative and conversation about, well, I mean, these are the two options we have. And I'm going to tell you, like, one of the most frustrating things for me as a pastor is how many of us as pastors do not engage in critical thinking. So it was one of the most frustrating things to start to see the pastoral response be, oh, these are our two options. I can't believe this is who we're stuck with. I can't believe, rather than, hey, one is clearly showing some sort of decline due to age. But one, every time he opens his mouth, is lying to you and has also been convicted of crimes within the very recent vicinity. It's very strange to me. I'm lost here. I'm processing how we fail to help people see, and I think this is many times the role of the pastor. The role of the pastor is to help people see what is important for them to focus on. To say, hey, this is big. Hey, this is major. Hey, don't neglect this. Hey, don't deny what you're looking at. As a matter of fact, face it, confront it, look at it with both eyes wide open. And the devolution of that conversation down to, oh my goodness, it's these two guys. I can't believe it is extremely frustrating in a way that I know you are about to explain.
I'm so glad you named that, because our ministry leaders, and particularly pastors and preachers, have been discipled, saturated in this both sides-ism, particularly when it comes to politics. So they're gobbling it up to say, well, both candidates are bad. You've got this elderly man who can't keep his thoughts together, and then you've got this corrupt man. What are we to do? And almost the only time folks in like the pulpit are talking about this is just to name what's bad on both sides. And like you're saying, not to point to, hey, these are actually categorically different. what's going on here. And that, I think, is a disservice. I don't know. There's a stronger word, but I'll let you figure that word out. But look, pastors, preachers, spiritual leaders, where is your red line? What will it take for you to actually speak out in more certain, decisive terms and not just say, well, these are the candidates, they're both bad, I don't know what to do. No. You've got one who is literally a convicted felon with several more trials and who spewed nothing but lies even as recently as this debate. You've got another one who's got his issues but is not trying to destroy democracy. And if you look at actually his actual presidency and not just one night, there's things to highlight there that show he, or at least the people around him, can be in that office. So it really is disturbing to me.
Yeah, I received that word. I think that's an important word for me to hear as a pastor as well. And I think what's also important is to recognize that, I need, and I'm gonna tell you what I need, Jemar. I desire earnestly a Black job. I need a Black job. I need it. I need multiple Black jobs. I need to know what it is. Do-rag model. I feel like that I would be perfect for that.
Absolutely. I could see that.
I could see that. Definitely.
Moisturizer for the locks, whatever.
Lock moisturizer. I'm definitely thinking about antenna adjuster in the house. I can do that.
Adjust your antenna. Lots of experience
in that. Extension cord dodger. I think these are Black jobs that I would, and this is the thing, like we mock this, but it's really become comical how we have allowed this individual to refer to us, and the polls do show that support for this individual has increased.
With Black folks.
Yes.
Particularly Black men.
With Black men specifically. It does
Black
show
brothers.
that.
What y'all doing?
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's cynicism. I don't know if it's the whole system is messed up in our eyes, but orders of magnitude worse than what we are seeing from the others. And I know people are not going to like to hear me say that. It's just the facts. It's orders of magnitude different.
Bro, this is where history helps us, because you look at all the people that you admire, name whoever you want to for standing up for justice. They were not fuzzy about which political party was better than another. And they weren't tiptoeing around it either in an attempt to appear nonpartisan or what have you. Frederick Douglass wrote a letter in response to someone, and this was in the newspaper. And now, mind you, the parties were flipped back then, but basically he's saying the party of the democratic process, the non-overtly white supremacist party, he didn't see how anybody could vote for the other party. And he wrote that publicly and was not ashamed. Now, he's not a minister in a pulpit or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, when we look back at civil rights movement, Jim Crow era, slavery, it was not unclear. It was not confusing who you had to vote for. And it was also not totalizing. So here's the issue nowadays. Who you vote for and what party you vote for is who you are. I was listening to Trevor Noah on his podcast, What Now? And he was talking about the difference he saw between South African politics and what he's seen in the US. And he's like, in South Africa, we don't say, I'm a whatever party. You say, I vote for whatever party. I support whatever party. But it's not who you are. In the US, it is, you are a Republican, you are a Democrat, and it says everything about your character, your being, your values, and all of that. So actually, I think we actually need to sort of lower the importance of which particular political party you identify with, so that we can actually vote more freely. Because if that's my identity, I can never switch it. And it's existential.
This is exactly why I personally believe we should have a political theology. The reason I say we should have a political theology is it actually allows us to have real political conversations, real conversations about policy related to our theological beliefs without relating it to our personal identity first. And it's very important for us. This is why whenever the church says, well, I don't want to get political, we're getting political, we're doing all this, I'm like, this is exactly what we need to do. We need to get political so that we can teach people what it means to actually parse through an issue without becoming a part of that, like becoming a sycophant for this particular person, whoever it may be. So we don't actually attach our identity to whether or not they win, they lose, whatever, but we vote in terms of our own personal values according to what we understand from our theology, but also what is best for the flourishing of our neighbors. And that's the big thing that I think we are still missing,
yes,
which is we are not voting for the benefit of those who are marginalized, those who are on the margins, those who are not. We are not doing that. And it is frustrating for me that we have not learned anything from 2016, 2020. It is the same song on loop. But the question now is the president going to step aside? Now, a lot of people have asked the question, is he fit to be president? Let me just remind people, he is president, okay? I just want to remind people, okay? Let me just remind you, okay?
We're seeing it right now.
He is president, all right? And I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but let me preemptively say this. The one reason why I am very weary and really desire and hope and pray that the Vice President, Kamala Harris, is not the nominee for president in 2024 is I just don't want to have to mute all these words. I'm going to have to mute Jezebel's spirit. I'm going to have to mute. I would vote for them if they were qualified. I'm going to have to mute so many spiritual dog whistles. I'm going to have to mute so many prophetic nonsense comments. I just don't want to, from Christians of all stripes, specifically those in the Pentecostal charismatic stream who have learned to only relate to women, specifically women in power, according to one example, which is Jezebel, and they do it in improper theology. I just don't want that for her. So this is the thing for me. I just don't want to have to get into fights about this. But here's the thing. I personally believe eventually he will step aside, probably before or right around the convention. And then we'll have a new nominee. According to the rules, it seems as though the only person that could really be that nominee without some extreme gymnastics or changing of the rules is the vice president. And then we'll have a conversation about who her vice president running mate is. That's from what I see, the age narrative isn't going away. It's not getting any lighter. It's not getting any better. I don't know how he's going to get around this. So that's what I think is going to happen.
That's bold. So there's a point to be made. And it's really interesting that we're even having this discussion, because I can't remember an election in my lifetime where that's been a serious discussion, where the incumbent, we're having a real conversation about whether they should step aside weeks before the convention, right? So that tells you where we are. And I think the calculus is who can beat Trump? And can the incumbent beat him? Because the stakes are so high, even Democrats are looking at their own party and say, well, maybe we should make a change. So regardless of where you fall on whether he should or shouldn't step aside, that's how serious it is. And like, these are real conversations among, the higher ups in the Democratic Party as well as the grassroots. The problem I have is I don't think there's anyone well positioned to clearly gain over Trump. It would be about the same. And there was a poll that talked about different matchups. Kamala Harris especially, well, I think she actually had the best chance.
Yeah, I think she has a good chance. Yeah,
but it wasn't huge, right? We're talking low single digits difference here. Now the selection of her running mate could make a difference as well. But understand, these are identity politics, and not primarily on the left. This is what the right is looking at. A woman of color, like, at least right now we're dealing with two white men, and the right can't exploit his demographic other than his age, right? So it would be very, very ugly. And I honestly feel bad if Vice President Harris is in that position just as a human being and what she would have to endure. At the same time, it's a legit discussion that at least I don't think we should just dismiss as too outlandish. What I think now, and I'm not a policy wonk or politician. The only thing I know particularly from history, is it is time to do things that we consider radical. It is time to do things that we consider radical. Now, whether they actually are or not is they're probably not when you think about the stakes.
Right.
Preserving the right to vote, preserving the rule of law, preserving that no one is above the law, like the Supreme Court decision just knocked over. Preserving truth, right?
Right.
The stakes are that high that I don't think much of anything that we could do in terms of the democratic process is too radical. And so there's talk of expanding the Supreme Court. There's talk of changing the presidential nominee from the incumbent to someone else. I think it's all on the table. That's all I know.
Yeah, man. Well, this has been your 2024 post first debate wellness check. Man, there's so much to consider.
Give us a word, Pastor. Give us something to hold on to. Point us to what's truly important right now.
The grass withers and the flower fades. No, I really want people. I really. Hey, let me remind everybody, and this is very important to me as a leader, and as someone who really is. I really consider my first primary vocation and job is pastor of my church. I really want people to hear this, that I know there's this big conversation about national elections, and I think that's great, but we'll talk about this in a few episodes. But local politics, it matters so much. Please, please, please pay attention to your state house races, pay attention to your city council races, your county commissioner races, your alderman races. Please pay attention to these races as quickly as you possibly can. Get to know them, ask them hard questions, see how they treat people who are vulnerable and marginalized. Please, please, please get involved in local politics. And I believe I'm a registered poll worker. So I'm going to be serving on election day. I already know this. If you can serve, please do. If you can help out, please do. Do your role in the process, get involved in the process, know how it works. And please, please, please know who is running, your judges. There's so many, your police officers, your sheriffs, all the above, whether, if they're elected rather than appointed, it's going to be massively important. So I think, if you talk about seeking the peace of your city, it doesn't start in DC. It starts where you live. And seek the peace of that city, seek the peace of your zip code, and see what God does through that. That's what I would say.
I love that. A great reminder. Yes.
Well, we want to hear what you think. Yes, we want to hear what you think. Remember, you can always support the podcast by going to patreon.com/passthemic. Just for $1 an episode, you can keep these episodes going. You please go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're here. You can see our faces. You can see us drinking coffee, smiling, rolling our eyes, everything. Pass the Mic Podcast on YouTube. And of course, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify as well. As for me and Jemar Tisby and our entire team here at Pass the Mic, we'll see you soon on the next Pass the Mic.